The Trump administration is on the defense today after officials in Texas criticized the National Weather Service for underestimating the amount of rainfall. Let's bring in NBC Washington correspondent Alice Barr, who's been covering politics for years now. And Alice, break down the contrast between what the White House is saying and what the folks in Texas are saying about this.
Yeah, there's been some mixed reaction because some people in Texas are saying that they felt like they got notifications and, are not criticizing the National Weather Service. But there's certainly a section of people who feel like the alerts didn't come out early enough, that there wasn't enough warning about how devastating the rainfall was going to be. This is one of these catastrophic 100-year type of events where the rivers just rose incredibly quickly, and that there wasn't enough warning that was coming. NBC News has spoken with some independent meteorologists and with former National Weather Service officials who have spoken about the difficulty, as I'm sure you know, Chesley, of forecasting exactly this type of event, that predicting extreme rain and flash flooding beyond several hours is always challenging. But there is that division and questions about the staffing levels at the local National Weather Service offices because of course, the cuts that the Trump administration has been putting in place throughout the course of this year, including to the National Weather Service. And so that's all contributing to these questions. There's one, at least Democratic lawmaker I've heard specifically calling from the state of Texas, specifically calling for an investigation into staffing levels at the offices that were responsible for forecasting there just to see if there was anything that could have been done differently.
Yeah, you talked about that, the outcry from Democrats on Capitol Hill. Could this confusion lead to some other sort of investigation?
Right. So that's the question right now. And President Trump has dismissed the need for that. And we did see the National Weather Service put out its own timeline saying that starting early on Thursday, they issued alerts, and they pointed to one specific alert that went out at 1:14 a.m. that should have triggered those kind of alerts you get on your cell phone that you would hope would wake people up because, of course, the timing of this is what made it so much more dangerous. People were sleeping as the water was rising so incredibly quickly. But yeah, questions again about the staffing. We can go back and say that the Trump administration this spring laid off National Weather Service employees and offered buyouts and early retirements. And by early June, the Weather Service had lost about 600 employees. Compared with many forecasting offices across the country, the Texas offices do remain relatively well staffed. And NBC News spoke with a National Weather Service union official who says that they did have enough meteorologists in place to respond to this, but he raised concerns about senior staffing positions and vacuums of leadership. And he said that the San Antonio-Austin weather forecasting office is down 6 employees from its typical full staffing. The San Angelo office is short 4 staff members, and among them is a senior hydrologist, which is a critical role for analyzing stream flow and working on flood response. So that's the kind of thing that the critics want to look more closely at, while the Trump administration is saying, the National Weather Service did its job, and that kind of regardless of the questions about who was here, who was there, that the alerts went out, and that everything, operated sort of as best it could under some obviously incredibly challenging, in the end, incredibly tragic circumstances, Chesley.
Yeah, that's all right. Yeah, we'll be talking about this further, I'm sure. Thanks so much for joining us this morning.